I am Paul, N1SFE, the ARRL Contest Program Manager, joined by Bart, W9JJ. So we're going to cover some topics regarding ARRL contesting. Let's start off. Many of you probably have contested before, but what benefit does the amateur radio community get from contesting? Well, we promote on-air activity. The more people on the air, the better. Pushing the boundaries of propagation. As you know, propagation is very fickle, but during like ARRL DXCW, propagation was fantastic, and we're making contacts all over the world, and it was great. But then last weekend, well, propagation, thank God there was no contest. So it really does test the boundaries of propagation, and it also encourages us to build and improve our stations. Contesting is a great way to test out your stations. If you're going to be using them for emergency preparedness, contesting is another great way to make sure our stations are built and operating correctly, which kind of moves into the strengthening and readying our readiness for public service. And of course, competition. A lot of amateur radio operators, the competition part of contesting is really what drives them to do better. And using all of our frequency allocations of the VHF and up contests, use some bands that are, a couple of bands that are in jeopardy, and some of our spectrum has been taken away, but the more we use those bands, the more we can show that they are usable and will not be taken away from us, and enhancing goodwill and through the country and Canada and all around the world, and having fun. So got that out of the way. All right, ARRL, we sponsor 15 contests, major contests, and with 9 other operating events. So the 15 contests we do, the major ones are the DXCW and sideband contest, ARRL November sweepstakes. 10 meters this past December was a very, very successful contest. We had record numbers of participation in both 2024 DX phone and CW combined, and the 10-meter contests were off the chart. So we have I'll go through the year. January we have RIDI Roundup. So that in 2023 was made a RIDI only event, which the non-RIDI operators, that contest was actually replaced by the June digital ARRL International Digital Contest. So in January we have RIDI Roundup and the January VHF contest. And then in February and March we have DXCW and phone. And then the next major contest is the digital contest, which is the first weekend of June. And then probably the most popular VHF contest is the June VHF contest. And then we have a couple other smaller VHF contests later in the summer, 222 and up, and the 10 gigahertz and up contest. And there is a July contest, the IRU HF World Championship, which is an IRU event that ARRL helps collect logs and adjudicate for. So we process the results, but it actually is a International Amateur Radio Union contest. And then in September, in the fall, we have the September VHF contest. We have the EME contest, which runs for 4 weekends throughout 4 consecutive months. And then, of course, November is the sweepstakes, and 160 meter and 10 meter are in December. So those are the main contests we have available. And if you want to, you or your club can sponsor plaques in the November sweepstakes phone and CW events, RIDI Roundup, international contests, DX contest, CW and phone, the digital contest, and June VHF. This graph here shows the number of logs submitted. This is from 2017 to 2023. As you can see, there's a big spike in the middle here in the yellow in the middle. That is Field Day 2020, which had a record number of logs submitted. A lot of that due to the fact that a lot of operators are operating from home and not as part of bigger clubs, because we relaxed the rules on operating from home for 2020 Field Day. But as far as our other contest, the ARRL DX contest, which is a little bit more towards the left here with a big spike in blue, that's the 2023 DX contest with over 10,000 entries. As you can see, as the propagation has gotten better, the DX contest entries have gone way up. And the very last column on the right is the 10-meter contest, which the last couple of years has been absolutely fantastic. So the DX and the 10-meter contests and IRU are pretty much the most popular events, followed by sweepstakes. And the VHF events are not quite as quite have the same participation that everybody else has, but they're there. So as you can see, September VHF, which is right next to EME, is pretty popular. But June VHF is our most popular VHF event. All right, so there's a lot of people that, in addition to myself at the ARRL Contest branch, we have a lot of people behind the scenes that do log checking, log collection, and results tabulation. So there's you may see their names in QST. I'd like to thank a few of our authors. I don't know whether any of them are here. Anybody? I don't see anybody that I recognize. But yes, so you'll see the authors' names in QST and in the digital digital results. So definitely give them thanks, and a lot of our editors. Those are all published on the website. And also like to thank Bruce Horn, WA7BNM, and Trey Garlow, N5 Kilo Oscar, who help behind the scenes with the database and log collection duties. There are a couple of results authors we are looking for. So if you know anyone or are willing to write about a specific contest, we're looking for a results author for the International Digital Contest, 222 and up in September VHF. So if anyone is interested in doing some writing for the results for those, please contact me at n1sfe@arrl.org. And ARRL does offer a small stipend for writing those articles. So you'll do that in collaboration with myself and our log checkers. We'll get you the results and help you polish up an article with our editing staff as well. All right, so what have we done new this year in ARRL operating events? We have added a limited antenna overlay to the VHF contest. The limited antenna overlay to, the ARRL HF contest, excuse me. We have added a limited antenna overlay which allows for stations that don't have access to a big beam antenna, or maybe have a simple wire or simple vertical antenna, to be able to compete in that overlay. So that maybe they have a HOA or have some sort of restrictions on their antennas, or they just don't have the room or have a tower or a big beam. So antennas that can be included, limited antenna, are either a simple dipole, a G5RV, end-fed wire, countless numbers of wire antennas that don't really offer any major gain in one specific direction. So it would be a non-gain antenna. And that also includes single verticals. So if you have a phased vertical array, that doesn't count because that is not considered a limited antenna. We've also added a youth overlay in all contests. So if you are submitting a log on our contest.arrl.org website, you will notice there's always a box in there that asks your age. We're grabbing that information to tabulate youth entries, which are those age 25 and younger. So we have added the youth overlay in all contests, and those overlays include the limited antenna overlay, the youth overlay, and the all indoor antenna overlay for the digital contest only have been added certificates. You'll see a little badge or a sticker on the certificate when when those are available when you enter in those categories. And we have made some changes in the 10 gigahertz and up rules, which I can't remember off the top of my head. So hang on. There we go. 10 gigahertz and up. There we go. So we're changing the start and end times of the app from beginning and ending in UTC. Beginning and ending in local time to UTC. Originally, the 10 gigahertz and up contest started in local time in each time zone. We're changing that to be a general start and stop time in UTC, as all our other events are. That ended up creating some issues with our log checking, as everyone was submitting logs in different time zones, and it became confusing. We've also added there is a 42 maximum hours that each weekend. It's a 2-weekend contest. You can operate a maximum of 42 hours each weekend, and we are still making the ARRL Contest Advisory Committee is still looking at some other changes to further benefit the event. And we also have released the 2025 EME contest. Now, EME, for those of you who don't know, that's when you actually are using the moon as a reflector for your signal. and we've announced our dates. The dates for EME are dependent on the moon, where the moon is, and so we also try to avoid some other major VHF contests, but the 2025 EME contest weekends have been announced, and those are what you see up there on the screen: August 16, 17, and September 13 and 15 for the 2.3 gigahertz and up, and October 11 and 12 and November 8 and 9 for the 50 megahertz to 1.2 gig. So there we go. So the 3 keys to contest success: get on the air. We really want to encourage participation. The last thing I want to do is discourage somebody from getting on the air and operating. Even if you get on the air and make 5 QSOs, get on the air and operate. Have fun, and even if you do only submit a few, have a few contacts in a contest, submit a log. You never know what you're gonna find. But get on the air, have fun, and send in your logs, and we'll take questions now. Anyone? So if there is, as far as youth goes, some contests don't have a lot of youth competition. There's maybe only a couple of them, but in the contests where youth competition is evident, we will at least call that out in the results article, because there are sweepstakes phone, for example, had quite a bit of youth participation, and it was really exciting actually to kind of see that, and we're really trying to gain momentum. So the more we call that out, and the more we say, hey, and if you know somebody who's operating as a youth, we'd love to see pictures. But remember, if we have pictures of people under 18, they need a release form signed. They'd be published in QST. But I would, we see a lot of picture submissions of people, their equipment, their antennas. We like to see people operating, because it really is, contesting is really, it's people communicating with other people. It's not your amp. Yeah, we see lots of pictures of amps and setups, but.
So just to clarify, so at this point, you're not planning to have in the results column youth.
If there is a significant amount of a good number of them to actually rank them, yes. We're doing the same thing with a limited antenna overlay. You'll see in the results articles. I'm actually working on finalizing those tables for 10 meters, which I realize aren't in the article I just posted online last week. But we're going to also not only list like single operator low power, we're going to operate single operator low power limited antenna, and kind of and like in contests like 10 meters, there's a lot of the way we tabulate the results. We do U.S., Canada, Mexico, and DX all separate. So there's a lot of tables, but we are trying to at least highlight those people who have submitted logs in those overlays. Anybody else? Yes.
How exactly are the logs checked? Do you have a computer program that checks them, or what do the log checkers do?
Yeah, so there are 2 variants of software that we use that check logs, and what they do is they'll like if you work like say you work me and I work you, if we both submit logs, it's going to look at the times, the band, well, in multi-band contests. And it will confirm whether we've actually exchanged the correct, like you've recorded my section like it was ARRL sweepstakes. So it does match QSO for QSO, and there's a little time window if say your clock is wrong. But the computers, there are 2 computer programs we use that match that, and then some of that is also we'll look at reports generated by that program, and sometimes we'll manually go in and say, oh, this log might need a little more scrutiny, so we take a look at it. And you had another part to your question too? Oh, so if we work each other, and say you're just a casual participant and you don't submit a log, I don't get penalized for working you because we don't have a log to check against. So if you make a contact with somebody and you don't submit a log, that other station is not penalized. So if we work each other and you bust my call, you get a penalty because you recorded my call wrong. Same thing would be, but so that's, we only can do that if we have a corresponding log to match against. And I think, Mitch, you had a question?
Yeah, if you work somebody and he works me again, but he's a dupe, I don't put him in the logs.
I would encourage putting dupes in the log.
I hate that.
Well, the reason being this, Mitch, is if say you work me the first time and you have me as W1 SFE, which happens a lot, all right? And so I work you again. Now I don't have you as a dupe in that band because, you know, or you don't have me as a dupe in the band because you log me as W1 SFE, so you work me a second time. If I don't put you in the log that second time, there's gonna be what's gonna be called not log penalty because there's nothing to match. So I would encourage you to not scrub.
In other words, I give him a report, but I don't put him in the logs. In other words, the other guy at least has me both times.
Yeah. So I mean,
Match, but different times.
yeah.
Log dupe.
Yeah. I would think that you just, you know.
When you work a dupe, you should be penalized because some people don't keep check sheets.
If you do work me as a dupe, the only penalty is you've just spent time working me again, and you don't get any points. There's no penalty besides not, you know. So there's really no harm in keeping a dupe in there. I'm sure I've duped you a couple times.
But when there's a separation in time, what do they actually do with that?
Well, one of them counts and one of them counts as a dupe. Or one of them doesn't count as a dupe. Sorry. So if we work twice, usually the first one counts, the second one's just.
No, but in other words, there's a match in contacts, but they're like 2 hours apart. Do they end up with both NILs?
You know, usually that would be outside of the window. I mean, usually when that happens, what I've found is that someone's clock is off for the whole contest. We will try to adjust time.
But it's not that.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, normally the window for log checking is about 10 minutes. It can have, people can just have variance. They forget to set the time on their tablet or their laptop. They come out to the event. Fortunately, they're not running FT8, so FT8 isn't going to get screwed up because the DT is too far off. Exactly. So the bottom line is nobody loses anything. If Paul tries to work you, but you didn't complete, you didn't hear the final Rogers, because you didn't hear the final Rogers, you hear him another time, you try to work him, you guys do complete. The first contact is simply a dupe. It doesn't get penalized, it doesn't get scored, it's nothing. The second one counts. So the dupes don't create penalties, but can actually complete a scored QSO that you might not otherwise have because you didn't log it. Now, it's possible that Paul logs you only on a second contact, not in the first one, because it was the inverse. He didn't hear the final Rogers, okay? He logs you on the second one, you say, oh, I'll give him a report. But you don't bother to log him, he gets a nil out of that. Not in log.
Even though we both have the contact, but they're.
But you chose not to log it. So the bottom line is log everything, and nils won't be penalized. Not nils, I mean duplicates. Dupes are not penalized.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been seeing with FTA contacts is a lot of times, you know, some stations wait for that final 73.
And they never send it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've exchanged the information we needed to exchange in a contact. The final 73 is really just another cycle. A 15-second cycle you're using up for nothing. So you could have, you know, moved on to work to another contact. I see that happens a lot in the digital key.
If you're logging on paper, there's extra effort. If you're logging with the computer, it's a keystroke. So just log them. Work them first, worry later.
So what you're recommending is on the contact software, well, you turn off the duplication.
Well, you know, a lot of times, like N1MM will warn you. It's
Yeah, you gotta check it, so it will allow the dupe, right?
But
If
you
I
know,
don't, then it won't, part of the, they can do it.
well,
But-
N1MM will warn you it's a dupe, but I believe it'll still allow you to log it.
and you have to ask yourself, why is the other person calling you again? Is he calling you again because he's just screwed up? Or is he calling you again because he forgot to log you the first time?
But I usually tell them that I check the time, I tell them when I work them, and they just miss a copy.
And then that's the second part of all of this, which is, what do you have time for? If you're running stations, going back and saying, go back and look at your log for X time, we worked before, dupe. It's extra effort that isn't worth it. Just log them, move on. Yeah, take the high road, take the fastest path. Fastest path is log them again and move on, because there's no penalty. Now, you'll look at your 22 log sheets and say, I've got to have a sheet of dupes maybe in the end. In the end, we're going to do the scoring. It's just a reference for you, really. When you upload your log, it's going to give you a raw score. That's not the final score anyway. So the easiest path, least resistance, log everything, submit it for adjudication, and yeah. And some people have mountaintops and are always the winner of the single up category in their area anyway, and they just consider it another contest. Yes, sir.
You still allow paper logs?
We do, but we don't like them.
So
And here's the reason why.
Well, we first of all, we allow paper logs in every contest except for 222 and up, and the digital contest. Digital contests, there's really no reason to be writing a paper log. Your computer's logging to QSO anyway. So in the VHF contests, we actually have an army of volunteers that transcribe logs. We like to get as accurate log checking as we can. Digital, electronically submitted logs provide us that opportunity to get as accurate as the log check as we can. The more logs we get submitted electronically, the better. But in some of the bigger HF contests, there's just too many QSOs in the logs to actually go in and physically transcribe them all as into a paper log. We try to, most of the smaller contests, I try to strive to get as many logs in electronically as we can. Again, it improves the results tabulation that much more, getting all the logs that we can check against.
And the volunteers have to be able to read your handwriting. And if they can't read it, they have to guess. And if they have to guess, they may get it wrong. Some handwriting is really tough in these logs, and you end up basically busting a call sign to somebody that they worked, or you get their exchange wrong because you can't read it. So.
Is there thought to allowing multiple modes in the VHF contest? Because the problem is, guys live on FT8, and then they'll go work me on, I'll work them on 6 meters, then they'll call me on cyber. Don't call me anymore. Now, I know you can't mix phone and CW because a lot of contacts are cross mode in VHF. He hears me on phone, I can only hear him on CW, so I understand that. But it's a big problem between the FT8 and the cyber.
Well, the contest advisory committee is looking into options to try to encourage basically people to get off, to not park on FT8 all contests. So we're trying to encourage operation on the other modes. We did add the analog only categories, which didn't really seem to have that huge of an effect. It kept the analog people in analog, and the mixed mode people still did what they wanted to do. So we're still evaluating other changes to the contest to try to encourage more. Again, the more participation we get, the better. Again, the last thing I'd want to do is discourage somebody from operating. So I don't think we'd want to penalize people from operating on the digital modes, but it's true. A good number of especially on 6 and 2, a good number of the contacts made in the VHF contest have been primarily FT8 the last couple of years.
Carrying your idea forward, Mitch, it's not so much about the cross-mode contacts as it is about newcomers who don't know code. So what categories can they then consider being in? Because they're not going to work everybody on CW and then work them all on phone and then work them all on FD8. They're going to maybe be limited to phone and FD8, and they're going to say, hey, I don't know CW, I'm handicapped because of that. Now, is that my fault because I don't know it, or is it the system's fault because it's not required? So that's the balancing act. Now, yes, there are cross-mode contacts, but it's really about, do we want to discourage the newcomers who've never had a reason to learn the code until the recent Aurora openings, that is. So again, it's going to be an uphill grind for the CAC to look at it, to reach some additional conclusions on how the event might become more fun. Again, I always describe, and when I present these, is what's the fun factor? And now, based on the fun factor, how can we adjust the contest for maximum fun?
What lot of FT8, and they're doing really well with it, but the CW is dropping off. So now we're thinking of giving more points for CW, just to encourage, the FT8 guys won't go there, but a lot of people are not doing CW, they're going to FT8 because they get more points out of it. So, you know, give them more zing for that, and at least the CW guys will stay there a little bit longer.
And you know, we have a similar challenge with Field Day. You know, are there less people operating phone or CW because of FT8 modes in Field Day? And it's going to be an ongoing challenge to figure out, is there a balance? Is somebody getting penalized inappropriately? And the 220 and up contest is an example. When we began the event, we tried to figure out how can we encourage more people to go to the higher bands. Well, let's increase the QSO point factor for the higher bands. It didn't make a difference. It did not move the people to the higher bands, even when the contacts were worth 10 times that of, say, the lowest of the contacts on 222. It's the multiplication factor did not motivate them to go to the other bands. Will it motivate them to go to the other modes? They may just go where they're comfortable. They may have a short amount of time. They may have distractions. We don't know. So we just try to put as many opportunities out there for them as we can. And, you know, they're going to take the path that they enjoy at that moment.
Speaking of Field Day, what are the rules? Because the rules said one thing, the scoring said another last year. I think you fixed that.
Yeah, there were some inaccuracies in the. So they had changed that had to do with go to station scoring. So what they wanted to include instead of the go to bonus points being calculated the way they used to be, which was a pain. They were calculating 5 bonus points for each go to QSO. Those were in the rules last year as 5 QSO points. So the problem between the bonus points and the QSO points is QSO points are multiplied by the power multiplier. Bonus points are not. So this year you get the 5 bonus points plus you get the QSO points at the regular rate for those QSOs as well. So the bonus points are that they're bonus on top of the regular QSO points you get. So
And they're unlimited.
and there is no limit to. So that was the clarification from last year's rules. The way the computer log submission works, it was calculating them right. But when you calculate it out on paper the way it was written, you come up with a different score. So yeah, we've addressed that this year and made sure that so that was more of an oopsie on my part. And we also did change. We added a new bonus point for class C, D, E, and F stations. It's a 50-point bonus, similar to the safety officer checklist available class A and B only. That would encourage stations that are not class A and B to not only welcome people into their operating positions, but make sure that those people were safe and that there was so it's very similar to the safety officer bonus.
It seems to be the same,
Yeah, except it's a 50-point bonus instead of 100.
but we can get both of them?
No, one's available for class A.
2 classes?
One's available.
50 is only for
It's only for class C, D, E, and F.
What is it again?
C mobile, D and E, and F.
50 is no good for A's.
No, the A's get the 100. So there were some people that operated either as a class F or a lot of class D and E's that said, well, how come we can't get the safety officer bonus? So we kind of did a compromise.
A corollary to that is stop publishing pictures in QST that demonstrate poor safety practices, such as people erecting towers with no safety gear on. Happens every year. Don't publish it.
Or the antenna on the table right next to them, on 2 meters there. They have the antenna like 2 feet from their face. I've seen some of those.
We'll have to work on that.
I know you guys aren't editors, but help the editors out to do it.
Part of it, so speaking of photos, please submit your photos to our soapbox, because I can't tell you how many contests I go through and there's like 3 photos I can use, and half of them are like a picture of some guy's amp. We've all seen an amp. I like, and we want to see pictures of people operating, and yes,
Particularly youth, too.
and particularly youth, and
But
that's
we
why.
don't get the releases, so we can't publish.
Yeah, so again, any youth picture has to have a signed release from a guardian saying that we have permission to run them. So.
I've already filled mine out.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I was going to ask how old you were.
We have permission to run your photo?
Go ahead.
Any other questions? Yes.
You should buy some lucky come in first in your category. It says that to get a plaque, it costs you $90.
Yeah. Well, so back to the plaque sponsorship. So some plaques are sponsored by clubs and organizations. So for like sweepstakes, for example, if there's an unsponsored plaque, ICOM actually has graciously offered to. So ask Mitch, he knows. I think I sent you a plaque every year. So in sweepstakes, basically, if you win your division in the overalls, you get a plaque because either it's sponsored by a club or a group or an individual, or ICOM does it. So if a plaque is not sponsored, so if you look at there's always a list of sponsored plaques in every contest. So say Potomac Valley Radio Club, I'm just picking out of a hat, sponsors a plaque for the category you won in your division, you'll get a plaque with no cost to you. However, if you want to purchase a plaque, they were $80 last year. They went up to $95. Shipping costs and production costs have gone up substantially.
So it's sponsored by ICOM.
Yeah. So for sweeps, sponsored by anyway. Sweepstakes just happens to have ICOM has stepped in to sponsor all the unsponsored plaques. But in a lot of our contests, like the DX contest, Riddy Roundup, clubs and groups and even individuals have sponsored plaques.
But you have to request it.
No, that's like, say your club decides to sponsor a plaque. Well, whoever wins that, whatever category they sponsor is going to get a plaque. So if you wanted to purchase your own, if it's not sponsored, you can purchase it as well. We call it self-sponsoring. So not every category has a sponsored plaque.
When you,
ICOM sponsors a plaque and you're first in your division and 20 meters.
on sweepstakes, yes.
Get something in
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
automatically.
in sweepstakes. Well, yeah, in sweepstakes. There's no single band categories in sweepstakes. So there's single band categories in DX only. But yeah, so if you were to win your division single op low power or single op QRP or single op, there's quite a few categories in sweepstakes. ICOM, well, if there's no other plaque sponsor, ICOM has sponsored them. So
Again, you'll look in the write-ups of the results for the event, and you'll be able to see which plaques are sponsored, which ones weren't. Sweepstakes, all of them are sponsored, so you don't have to worry about sweepstakes. But as you look through the results, the plaque tables, if you see your call sign next to a sponsored plaque, it's just going to be sent to you. Nothing else has to happen. If you see, as you're looking through it, oh, I won the division, but nobody sponsored the plaque, you have the option to sponsor it yourself. In other words, to buy it.
anyone else?
Folks, let's
Get on the air. Send in your logs. Bart
But-
every year used to have a little picture of a guy with log rolling. Says, keep those logs rolling in. So I'll use Bart's thing. Keep those
Well,
logs
thank
rolling
you.
in.
But again, whether you're a VHFer, whether you're an HFer, whether you're a newcomer, there's a lot of contesting activity available.
Go back.
If it's not an ARRL contest, you know that there are CQ contests and a myriad, just a myriad of other events. Now, that may also mean to you that some weekends it seems like there's always a contest. Now, on a positive note, it's showing that the bands are active. Keep in mind that we have commercial government interests who aren't afraid to look at our bands with a spectrum analyzer and look and see how active our bands are. Look in the middle of the week, tune the bands, think to yourself, I'm not hearing anything. You know, if our government interests or commercial interests are looking for frequencies, what are they going to see? They're not going to see anything. So I'm not saying that weekdays are an opportunity necessarily for contest, but get on the air, occupy bandwidth, you know, recognizing, yes, there's narrow channels of FT8 running 24 hours a day, but don't be afraid to get on, call CQ. I think one of the biggest things over the decades, you know, the VHFers have seen this too, is people stopped calling CQ. They would just listen, hope somebody else would do it. Everybody's listening, exactly. Yeah, Mitch.
So on that note, when are we gonna end that silly prohibition of contests on the war bands? Because those bands are dead except for FD8.
Probably never, and the reason is because it continues to be a refuge for those who want to avoid contests.
But they're not there.
I know.
They're dead.
They are. They're plenty busy. They are. But it's not true.
I'll let you guys debate this outside. But it gives us the opportunity also to defend the fact that there are so many contests. And the WA7BNM, the Bruce Horn calendar of contests, which is what you see in QST each month under Contest Corral, is from Bruce's webpage. You want to find an activity, go to WA7BNM. Is it .net?
No, it's contestcalendar.com.
Oh, I'm sorry, contestcalendar.com. And you will almost always find something, whether it's domestic or foreign, something to use to enhance your skills, pass the time, practice a different mode than maybe you normally would. So we have an adequate supply generally of contests. The thing is, how much free time do we have? I mean, we were young once, some of us. And when we were younger, we were looking for that stuff.
And
Today, it's a balancing act.
And pretty much every weekend there's at least a bigger contest, or at least like a state QSO party or something going on. I mean, there's so many operating events, and I'd found during the week Parks on the Air is a great way to there's a lot of people, and actually with Parks on the Air, it's great practice for contesting, because a lot of these guys are running pileups, and it's great practice to to really hone your operating skills, both for the activators and the chasers. So there's a lot of activities on the bands.